Good morning. I'm Christine Sao. Welcome to this news briefing from the 246th National Meeting and Exposition of the American Chemical Society in Indianapolis. We're joined today by Dr. James Carey from the National University of Kaohsiung, who will give us a brief overview of his research. For those of you joining us here in person, please silence your cell phones, and when asking a question, please state your name and affiliation using the microphone provided. We're also joined by reporters online via our ACS live Ustream channel. All reporters are encouraged to ask questions after the overview. Also joining us are our ACS science writers who might have questions, but we'll field those from news media and bloggers first. For online media, please link to the archived version of this session, which can be found at www.ustream.tv/channel/ACS Live. Now we'll turn to Dr. Carey, who will talk to us today about a new artificial nose device that can speed the diagnosis of sepsis. Dr. Carey.
Good morning. Today I'm going to tell you about a new device that we developed that can detect sepsis in human blood. The current technology involves putting a single sensor into the bottom of a bottle, and when the patient presents to the doctor, they put the blood inside the bottle, and then they shake it. And then what happens is that the sensor changes color. And when it does, the doctor knows the patient has bacteremia. So what we've done is put 36 dyes inside the same bottle, and then we can get identification from the bottle.
Okay. Do we have any questions? So what kind of developments did it take to achieve this new device?
Actually, it was quite difficult. You would think that just putting a sensor into a bottle would be easy, but you can't autoclave this because it reacts with volatile organics from bacteria. And so the dilemma is how to make a sterile device with the CSA attached to it. And so what we did was we took a simple bottle and put a PVDF membrane across it. And so bacteria cannot go this way. Okay? So what you do is you put water inside the bottle and then autoclave it. And then when you're done, you aseptically dump the water out, and then you adhere a CSA to the outside. Does that make sense? So basically, you don't have to sterilize the array. And so volatile organics can go this way, but bacteria can't go either way. So what you do is you incubate this, you put the bacteria, the blood sample in an incubator, and then shake it. And then as the bacteria grow, they release volatile organics, and then the sensor detects those volatile organics. And so what takes many people and many days, and many steps, we can do in one step. So you insert the bacteria in here and then just let it go.
Can you compare this technology to the current diagnosis system that we have available?
Yeah, I just did that basically. The current device you need after you grow it, you need to, after cultivation, you need to take it out and do many, many biochemical steps to get identification. Whereas our bottle, you get detection, identification in a single step.
And can you compare the amount of time that it takes for the different tests?
That's really hard to say because some bacteria take 30 days to grow. Fungi and yeast can take 30 days. Some bacteria can take 3-4 days. It depends on how much bacteria is in the blood. It depends on a lot of conditions. Does a patient have antibiotics in their blood? Young patient, old patient, how much blood you were to get. So it's really hard to directly compare, but in the same time they get detection, we will have identification. So.
Cal? Can you wait for the microphone? Sorry. And please state your name and affiliation.
So it's Kath O'Driscoll from Chemistry and Industry magazine. So you mentioned, did you say 36 dyes that you add to the water?
There are 36 dyes, but you actually... there's 36 dyes, but you actually get 108 different color channels because each dye has red, green, and blue. So when you look at my data, you'll see 108 lines coming out.
And so what is it? Do you get a fingerprint for the particular bacteria?
Exactly.
Is that what it is for the color? So the sort of the color spectrum would correspond to a certain bacteria. Is that what happens?
Exactly. So the power of this array is exposure over time. So when you expose it just one time for any application, it's sometimes difficult to, or actually most times difficult to get any information out. But when you can expose this ray over long periods of time, and then you get different color changes, either negative or positive, sometimes they go positive, then they go negative, you get tons of temporal, or a lot of temporal information involved, and therefore you can back out the identity of the bacteria.
So, I mean, does that correspond to 108 different species of bacteria that you can identify, or
No,
are there actually more?
Yeah, it's unlimited how many different bacteria we can identify because exactly what you said earlier, it's like a fingerprint.
Okay. But how do those colours correspond to the smells of the bacteria?
There are salvochromatic dyes, so when they react differently with different organic, volatile organics, there's metalloporphyrins in here, salts, metal salts, different dyes. Actually, for the first time ever, I've listed all the formulations for this array in my last paper in The Analyst. And so if you want to know the exact formulation, you can go to my last paper, the supporting information. So what it does is they change color in response to different concentrations of volatile organic compounds.
Right. What actually are the compounds that the bacteria emit? Can you say, are they certain classes of compounds or what types of things?
I love this question because that's really display the beauty of this array, is that we don't care what's being evolved. You can see all the mass spec papers, they care what's being evolved. They have to know what's being evolved, but we don't have to know.
Okay.
If you're actually curious about which Pseudomonas, which volatile organics, just go to you can Google it and then you'll see 5 mass spec papers that identify.
What type of bacteria can you identify? I mean, can you identify some that are difficult to identify by other means?
By other means, what do you mean by that?
I don't know, conventional techniques, I guess.
Conventional techniques, there's nothing can beat antibiotic susceptibility. Let me be very clear. This is not going to replace antibiotic susceptibility. So when you grow the bacteria in your culture bottle, the doctor is going to want them to culture it and to grow it and to get a single colony and then to take that colony and do antibiotic susceptibility. Okay, then the doctor will get a plate, a readout, telling them what antibiotic will kill the bacteria growing. This will not do that. All this will do is help direct appropriate antimicrobial therapy early on during the patient's sepsis. Remember, you can only take the first sample. When they show up, you take the sample, and then that's all you got because they start giving the patient broad-spectrum antibiotics right away because they know that the identification process could take days.
So what bacteria have you used it to identify?
Every single one I've tried I've been able to identify. So that's up to 30 organisms using this bottle.
Can you give some examples?
If you read my recent paper, there's 9 in there, and then basically we can tell down to the strain level, 2 E. coli's. There's 3 bacteria that medical device companies use for to quality control, and we've detected those 2. And identified those 2 E. coli.
Ben Valsler, Chemistry World. Your particular aspect of this work, has that been developing the dyes or developing the mechanism or the interpretation or a bit of all of the above?
This array was reported by Ken Suslick in 2000 in Nature. So the idea was developed a long time ago. We do formulate some dyes specific to what we're looking for, but that's very minimal.
So how do you see this actually being deployed in hospitals? Is it as simple as they take blood, they pop it in, stick it in an incubator for a day, and then somebody will be able to have a look at the top and say, right, what we've got there is MRSA or whatever it may be?
Right, I believe that's possible. There's a company out there that's commercializing this device as we speak.
And how stable are the dyes? So once you have that bottle, is that heat stable? Can we send it to clinics in Africa, or is it not going to survive the journey?
I put media in here, the TSB media, and also Biomerio media. I've opened their bottles and put it in here. And it's basically, it'll change in the first 10 minutes, and after that, it's stable for up to 60 days at least so far. I've taken these bottles, I put them on airplanes, shipped them to Philadelphia, shipped them back, filled them with media, shipped them to Philadelphia, shipped them back, and I can still identify the 3 quality control strains that I use. And
could you just give us an idea of what the cost is compared with the traditional way of identifying the drugs?
This bottle right here from Fisher was $4. So the PVDF membrane is a penny maybe, and depends on how much I want to charge for the CSA when we make it.
But still nothing compared to days of lab time and all of the other reagents.
I taught my 3-year-old son how to identify the bacteria, so he did it for free. It takes days and lots of money and lots of steps to identify.
I assume you have child labour laws over here that means that we can't use your 3-year-old certainly in hospital.
Well, we could work something out, I think.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Do we have any other questions? All right, I think that's all. Thank you very much, Dr. Carey. Please join us for our next press conference at 10:30 on the Solar Army.